This show contains language that is unsuitable for children.
Filled with good intention, may we find peace in the midst of dissension. We know what they make us, though they try to break us and say we love us, give you love. This is how we make it.
Welcome to Straight Vibes, No Chasers. Raw talk on coming out of the closet about our fears and why we're so hell-bent on resisting our highest good. This podcast focuses on the African American experience concerning fear and our long-standing romance with mediocrity. You can follow and comment on the show topics on Instagram at SVNC_podcast or go to PennyMurray.com, where you can also find out more about Dr. Murray's work, her book, Giving Myself Permission, and the Learning Spa, Inner Wellness and Cultural Incubation Center. Now, here's your host, Dr. Penny Murray.
Hey, and welcome to Straight Vibes, No Chasers from Dallas, Texas. And welcome to a new year that's demanding new perspectives and new ways of being. Individually and collectively, we've been pushed through the doorway of another year. Yet, most of us still have so many unanswered questions and unfulfilled desires that we're wrestling with. But ready or not, we're in a new year of unknowns. And regardless of what we think we know in this new space, there is so much more we don't know, and we may not be prepared for. Without a doubt, the last several years have left us in a feeling state of exhaustion and anxiousness. Many are trying to process the grief of losing loved ones and just struggling with our day-to-day sense of physical and psychological stability. If you're like me, you can't help but be concerned about the residual impact all of this has had on our psyche and ultimately our quality of life as we move forward. But let me just say this. While many of us are disillusioned by all of the reckless shenanigans going on throughout our society, I sense that many remain inspired by the divine possibilities and wakefulness that all of this is leading us to, individually and collectively. I'm your host, Dr. Penny Murray. The start of the new year is when the collective energies of self-reflection is at its peak. Across the world, we take a moment to reflect on our past life choices and actions. Many of us realize we lived another year on automatic and accepted a mere invitation of life. We became consciously aware of how often we react to the chaos and insanities that happen in our lives. Or we were manipulated by the egos of others or our own damn fears. While this awareness is often fleeting, the symbolism of a new year inspires us to think about making meaningful change. So we make resolutions for a new year in hopes that things will change. Resolution basically refers to making a firm decision to do or not do something to meet a particular goal. But here's the issue. Deciding to do something does not result in action, nor does it measure our commitment or follow through. Unfortunately, most of us have made a lot of New Year's resolutions that simply die on the vine within a month. And then we usually say our lack of follow through is because life got in the way. And of course, there is some truth to that. But a deeper look would reveal that either we weren't that serious about that resolution or we unconsciously changed our commitment about a particular goal. To me, the issue is simple. Resolutions don't possess the energy required for our true path to come into being. In other words, resolutions alone are just not enough to set a new course for our lives. So I propose, instead of making resolutions, we first know and then take ownership of our deepest life desire, and then cultivate that desire through intention. Brian McGill put it like this: every journey begins with the first step of articulating our intentions and then becoming that intention. So My topic for this episode focuses on cultivating a new year through desire and intentions instead of resolutions. But before we get into that discussion, I gotta do my 2 cents, my contribution to Black History 365. I usually focus on Texas and the ancestors who contributed to developing this state. But in this episode, I want to focus on the earlier experiences or the New Year experiences of our ancestors. Now, while our modern day experiences of New Year's Eve and New Year's Day symbolizes the celebration and ideology of a fresh start, that was not the experience of our enslaved ancestors in the United States. Before the Civil War, New Year's Eve was a time of great distress for our enslaved ancestors, followed by the first day of the new year, which was often full of heartache and grief. Back then, New Year's Day was known as Heartbreak Day because on the first day of every year, many slave owners would rent out their slaves to other white landowners and businessmen to do labor. Renting out slave labor was negotiated between family members, friends, and business contacts. It was a quite common and very lucrative practice for both the slave owners and those who hired the slaves. So our enslaved ancestors spent New Year's Eve in anguish, waiting and worrying if they would be rented out to someone harsh or cruel-hearted. Not only did this practice hold the threat of harsher treatment, but it could also potentially further split up the Black families. Historical records described enslaved African Americans spending New Year's Eve praying that the whites who might hire them would be humane and allow their families to stay together. This experience would finally change on Wednesday, December 31st, 1862. This was when the tradition of watch night service began. Now, watch night service was also known as Freedom Eve, and it was the result of enslaved African Americans gathering all across the nation on December 31st, 1862, waiting anxiously to receive news of President Lincoln signing the Emancipation Proclamation. There was a lot of skepticism among African Americans and abolitionists. They were fearful that President Lincoln would cave under the pressure of political resistance and fail to keep his word about freeing the slaves. So free and enslaved African Americans everywhere gathered and prayed throughout the night well into the day, waiting for the hand of God to intervene on their behalf and bring about a new reality. And New Year's Day, January 1, 1863, enslaved African Americans got the news that they were free. Free and newly freed Blacks throughout the nation celebrated the new year and the beginning of a new reality. Well, slaves everywhere except Texas. It would be another 2.5 years before their Freedom Day would come. Now, back to the topic of cultivating a new year through desire and intention instead of resolution. First, let me say desire and intention are crucial to creating a higher quality of life. Desire is everything. I'm not talking about the worldly or egoic indoctrination of desire. What I'm referring to is the divinely inspired desire. Most of us fear giving breath and expression to this level of desire, but this is a topic I'll address in a later show. But for now, desire is the gateway to our spiritual agreement. Unfortunately, our remembrance of this agreement has dulled and is no longer in focus for most of us. So we struggle with uncertainty in knowing our life's purpose. More specifically, we fear being responsible for creating this desire, or we believe the lie that we are unworthy of this deep desire. There are only a few passages from the Christian Bible that I actually take literally. One is found in Jeremiah 1:5 that says, "Before I formed you in your mother's womb, I knew you. And before you were born, I set you apart and appointed you as a prophet to the nations." Now, nations, that's plural, meaning many. Now, I take the word nations to maybe describe or represent the different cultures or even different situations in which we experience. This passage, at least for me, validates that we are spirits first. And before descending into this physical form that we know ourselves as, we made an agreement to be a conduit, a channel, spokesperson, whatever you want to call it, to Supreme Spirit to manifest something on this physical plane. Or as I like to say, we were divinely sanctioned to be here on purpose for purpose, to move, shift, heal, refocus, or elevate the energy of the world around us further than where it was when we got here. In my adult life, I have witnessed that every new year has its own unique needs and challenges for us as individuals and as a society to deal with. It calls forth particular energies and expertise in those of us sanctioned for a specific time and purpose. Therefore, we must begin to embrace the importance of taking our place among the prophets, messengers, healers, whatever you want to name it, of this world. The needs and the challenges of the time call us to step up and make good on the agreement we made in spirit form. Now, if you're skittish about the word prophet, from my perspective, prophet is a general term. It's like the title a professional, a field of study, or a level of expertise. And like these titles, there are varying branches and degrees depending on our spiritual agreement. It doesn't matter whether our agreement is to entertain, heal, protect, teach, improve, inspire, enrich, provide a craft, develop a vaccine, or make a mockery of the United States Office of Presidency. The point is, each of us made a spiritual agreement. The reason why desire is everything is because on a soul level, it is our spiritual agreement calling to us. It is the language that is expressed through our Sacred Expressive Life Force, our self. So when we are being haunted by a recurring desire, it's the universe nudging us to remember our agreement and to allow our Sacred Expressive Life Force to express that desire as it was intended. But this often becomes problematic because most of us are afraid to identify and take ownership of our one grand desire. We resist, deny, and turn a deaf ear to this deep level of desire for 3 reasons. 1, it goes against the negative storyline we've accepted for our lives. 2, it calls us into accountability and responsibility, accountable for our actions and responsible for our feelings. And 3, we're confused, unsure, or afraid that we're not worthy enough of our calling. We say to ourselves, divine spirit must have made a mistake. But when we do the work of remembering and connecting to our divine oneness and our agreement, confusion, doubt, and fear dissipates. The most effective way I know to begin the work of remembering is to go within and consistently ask our Sacred Expressive Life Force one question. What is it that I most desire? Or we could ask, what am I most committed to? The answer may take a while to break through our resistance and negative mindset, but it will in fact come through if we are consistent. Once it comes through, we then have to cultivate that desire through intention, giving ourselves permission to be seen, heard, and felt in its own way without trying to manipulate or force an outcome. Now, whatever you desire most or are committed to at a soul level, intention will bring more clarity to it. New energy and creativity then begins to flow through us. To be clear, intention is not the same as holding a stubborn, egoic determination to make something happen. It doesn't mean putting your nose to the grindstone or digging your heels in and being obsessive over a precise outcome. Instead, intention is a mindset or lifestyle that nurtures the thought process of remembering what we are genuinely here in physical form to do. Living and creating with intention allows us to focus on the present moment of the journey so we can clarify who we are, what we will do, and why we do a particular thing. When we live through the energy of desire and intention, sitting on our asses waiting on a great Messiah or a Savior to come and fix things for us is no longer an option. Instead, we recognize Supreme Spirit set us apart and expects us to be the prophet, Savior, Messiah we've been waiting for. So we step up and make good on our spiritual agreement. But this kind of awareness and certainty comes from an ongoing collaboration between our conscious intellect, our skills and abilities, our sacred expressive life force, and our divine allies. I have to admit, when my divine allies presented this topic to me, I instantly thought about an episode from the series Lovecraft Country, where the character Hippolyta found herself before a celestial being demanding, "Name yourself." In the episode, Hippolyta named herself differently several times. I now realize that naming herself, her sacred expressive life force, the desire or spiritual agreement, gave her conscious intellectual self an intention, a way of being, or what she wanted her life to represent. She was also able to give herself permission to embody the personification of each of those names. Living through the intention of those names, she gained more clarity and focus as time went on, until the one name that personified the fullness of her divine essence was revealed. Even our African ancestors knew how important and powerful a name is. They felt that a name was much more than just a simple label to identify somebody. To them, it was a symbol, an emblem. The ancestors believed until an identifying word was attached to an infant's body and soul, it didn't truly exist or have a place in the world. But more importantly, they felt that the meaning attached to a name could shape a person's character, mold their social identity, determine their quality of life, and even influence their destiny. When we truly embody the name of ourself, our sacred expressive life force, we sever our emotional attachments to the negative labels and stereotypes the outside world assign to us. And instead, we give our desire a voice that articulates our divine purpose and goals, not just to our own cognitive selves, but the world around us as well. And it is our intention that helps us focus on living a life that represents the meaning and characteristics of that name. It directs our life's journey and allows us to manifest more meaningful outcomes. In essence, when we become aware of who we really are, we take responsibility for cultivating a mindset and environment worthy of that name. And that's when our life begins to level up. I remember the first time I asked Spirit to give me a new name. It was in 1998, and shit was bad. I had just lost my business. My house had gone into foreclosure. I was hiding my car so they wouldn't repossess it. But during that time, I was so broken. I mean, it was bad. and I sat there in the dark with no electricity, and I demanded that God give me a new name. I guess I was thinking about the scripture. Somebody was fighting with an angel, one of the archangels, and demanded that they would give them a new name. And they wouldn't stop wrestling with that angel until the angel did give them another name. And that's just where I was. At the time, I didn't even understand the impact of what I had asked or the name that was given. Like I said, my soul was so broken and my ego was in full-time defense mode. And I wasn't even into meditation or anything like that. I was just struggling and 2 shakes from committing suicide. I'm serious. It was a mess for me. And as I sat there in the dark, I heard Spirit say to me, I call you healer. And I was like, I am so broken and screwed up. How the hell am I going to heal anybody? I got nothing. And so again, I didn't understand the impact of what I was asking and willing to accept that name. It has taken me 22 flipping years to finally start figuring shit out. And it's just been in the last year of studying A Course in Miracles where I began to learn and truly look at it again and embrace that name. And as I'm embracing it, I realized that I don't have to worry about what to do or what to say because Supreme Spirit that sent me will direct me. And I will be healed as I let Spirit teach me to heal. So with that being said, I would like to suggest a New Year's ceremony that will help you name your spiritual agreement so you can set your intentions. And that ceremony is called a white stone ceremony. All you need is a smooth, flat white stone. You can get that at any craft store or off Amazon. But if you get it from Amazon, you'll have to order them in bulk. You'll need a medium or fine point permanent marker, a quiet space, and raw sincerity. In this ceremony, rather than focusing in on what we will do, that's a resolution. We focus on who we are called to be. That's our spiritual agreement. And then our thoughts, feelings, and actions become more intentional, allowing the character of that name to actually emerge in everything we do. So why the white stone? Great question. First, let me just say this. We're hardwired for freedom, independence, health, joy, and prosperity. It's in our spiritual DNA. But centuries of indoctrination has clouded our memory of this truth. So the white stone stands for our true spiritual identity, and it implies an alliance between our human self and our divine nature. In this alliance, we recognize and affirm that we are in fact spiritual beings first in this human form. And unapologetically, we are declaring we are divine consciousness. Also, back in the Roman days, when someone was released from prison, they were given a white stone signifying freedom from bondage and a new start. It was also evidence to anybody that they encountered that they had, in fact, overcome a limiting condition like imprisonment. So that was the reason for the white stone. There's other elements of that as well, but you get the message. Now, listen, you can do the white stone ceremony anytime. But since we want to start our intentions at the beginning of the year, I'm suggesting that you do it at least before the end of January. Now, let's get into the ceremony. First, find yourself a comfortable space where you won't be distracted or disturbed. And then do what you need to do to get into a mental and feeling state of calm and sacred gratitude. Now, you might want to have some soft meditative music playing, diffused lighting, a scented candle burning. Maybe anoint yourself with your favorite essential oil. Do whatever gives you a sense of reverence and gratitude. And once you get into that space, then you begin to just kind of close your eyes and hold the white stone in the palm of your left hand and place your right hand over it. Now, take a slow, deep breath and then exhale just as slowly as you come into this space of sacred peace and gratitude. Just breathe deeply, hold it just for a second, and then exhale just very slowly. You want to do that deep breathing as many times as you need to get you to that sacred space of peace and gratitude. Now, remember, a name means the nature of something. And in this case, it means the nature of your sacred or your spiritual agreement. Now, after you get into your space of calm, then you want to just begin to ask yourself quietly, what is the major quality of my divine nature? Just hold that particular question, nothing else. What is the major quality of my divine nature? That's all. And then take a slow breath again, deep breath in, and then a slow exhaling of that breath. Now, don't force yourself to come up with the words or a name. Just allow your thoughts to free flow until one or two words come to the surface. Now, you'll know this because the word or the words will seem to break through all of the other mental noise. It will then begin to feel different. Now, listen, you may get a single word like healer, guardian, inspiration, compassionate, empathetic, or empathic, tenacious, any of those things. Or a combination of words such as compassionate healer, peaceful warrior, freedom fighter. It isn't anything. You never know what's going to come up. So you just want to leave your mind free. And if you feel your mind wandering, that's fine. Go ahead, let it wander, but come back to that question. What is the major quality of my divine nature? And like I said, it will then begin to feel different. That word that surfaces will be more powerful than any other thoughts that comes up. Now, when you receive the word or the name, sit with it for a minute. Does it really resonate with your soul? If you feel the word or that name at a deep level of knowing, breathe energy into it. Breathe your essence into that name. And when you're ready, just open your eyes, write the name or the word on that white stone with the marker, and then reflect on that name you wrote and its meaning. Also focus on the significance of the white stone. It's saying that you are free of all the limitations. This is the nature or characteristic that you want to begin to give life to in your daily endeavors and any interactions that you find yourself with. You want to also place your stone somewhere you can view it daily to remind yourself of your extraordinary divine nature and how the energy of that name will help you fulfill your agreement. All right? Okay. That music means it's time for A World According to Penny. Now listen, here's my closing thoughts. One of the reasons I no longer participate in organized religion is its dogma of controlled thinking and the many ways it makes you feel, or it made me feel, worthless and shameful, always begging for forgiveness, or that the way you prayed wasn't sacrificial enough. The White Stone ceremony has an element of meditation to help you get into your sacred listening space and connect with your divine consciousness. But it has no strict rules or dogma. If you already have a meditation practice that you enjoy, that's good. But if you don't, no worries. You don't have to get into some long drawn out ritual to connect with the divine collectives. From my perspective, all you need is the intention to draw in light, truth, and love. Trying to remember all kinds of formalities, like calling out the names of the deities and saying a prayer in a certain way. All of that robs you of the sacred intimacy of the moment. And that's really all our divine allies want, is that we be present, intimately present with them. So just do what gives you a sense of reverence and gratitude, makes you feel loved and loving. Because the only thing Spirit asks of us is raw sincerity and humble surrender. And trust me, it's the humble surrender that our egos really resist more than anything. I know for me, the one phrase that has helped me put down my weapons and kind of soothe my ego's voice that's always going off in my head, and to get to that place of humble surrender, is the phrase, it's possible. I don't know why, but it just does. It allows me to put my weapons down because I can say it's possible that I am perfect in the way that I am right now. It's possible that I am a prophet. It's possible that I am the healer. It just kind of like settles me down so that I'm not fighting against what is truly my highest good. I do strongly suggest listening to some soothing music that puts your soul in an intimate state, because the music is like a primer or cables that jumpstart your battery and moves you to a state of love and gratitude of who you are. Okay. Now, make sure that the music is at least 10 minutes long, because it takes the brain at least 7 minutes to align with the music's energy. Also, try to spend at least 30 minutes in this sacred listening space to experience its benefits. If you fall asleep during the process, don't sweat it, shit. I call that sweet peace. Plus, our divine allies can talk to us whether we are asleep or awake. It really doesn't need our cognitive consciousness to make that connection. So just be compassionate with yourself. Just chill out, right? If you need more time to be sure about the name, that's fine too. Hell, you may not even get a name during the ceremony. You may get the word or a name a day or two after the ceremony, when your cognitive mind is preoccupied with other stupid shit. So just keep the stone with you, or put it in a place where you can see it daily to remind yourself of your intention to name your spiritual agreement. When something does come to you and you feel a connection to it, write it on the stone as soon as you can. Okay. And then, like I said, keep it in a place where you can see it to remind you of your true nature. But also keep in mind that you can keep that name, you can modify it, or you can change the name that comes to you during the ceremony at any time afterwards, depending on the guidance you receive from your Sacred Expressive Life Force. It may adjust that name in some way. It's like the character Hippolyta. She named herself several times and embodied those personifications until she actually settled on one that genuinely described the fullness of her divine essence. And the same is real for you. So whatever spiritual quality comes to you, it will help you set your intentions throughout the year and guide how you manifest your spiritual agreement. All right. As I always say, you are never the victim of life. You are always the student of purpose. So what skill or higher consciousness are you learning? What task or message are you being prepared for? I really appreciate you tuning in to another episode of Straight Vibes, No Chasers. And I certainly hope you will keep listening and grow with me in this journey. If you like the show, please do me a favor, leave me a comment. And if you haven't already, like, share, or subscribe to the podcast. You can also visit my website, pennymurray.com. That's Penny with an IE. And go to the podcast page to get the White Stone ceremony instructions and the transcript of my closing thoughts, which were, just some tips on moving forward as you get into doing the ceremony. And you can also find out more about my work and how you can support or be a part of the dialogue on Straight Vibes, No Chasers. But again, thanks for listening. And I leave you with this quiet thought for the new year. Why was I born? What's the nature of my unique genius? What are the best gifts I have to offer the world? Of all the wonderful things I could accomplish, what can I give that is most needed? I have an appointed task that I alone must fulfill, and the universe is waiting for me to take my place among the prophets of the world, to give my offerings. Until I make this choice, I am nothing more than a slave to my ego's limitations and the bigotry of this world. When I willingly and gladly accept my appointed spiritual agreement, I will recognize divine knowing is already within me to achieve it. I know my agreement is not a race. It's a journey. It's not about doing. It's about being. It's not a task to complete, but my sacred identity. But I also know that the battle scars of my illusions have caused me to choose fear over love and trust. Yet, despite my fears, I choose the path of my spiritual agreement. Where that path leads me, I choose to go. What it would have me do, I choose to do. And even though I'm afraid, I choose this way because I'm confident my footsteps are ordered and the end is secure. So I set my intentions on taking the ambitious but patient route, and I surrender to my manifest destiny. Ashe.
You've been listening to Straight Vibes, No Chasers with Dr. Penny Murray. Listen and subscribe to our podcast from your mobile device with your favorite podcast app. If you have any questions, topic ideas, comments, or want to invite Dr. Murray to speak at your next event, go to contact us at pennymurray.com. We invite you to support the African American Inner Wellness community by donating to the Learning Spa Inner Wellness and Cultural Incubation Center.